Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing really well. It's Thursday, almost Friday. March starts next week. So, for us here in Canada, that means spring is hopefully coming soon. So, lots of good things happening. I wanted to pop in here really quick this morning and just share a thought with you that I've been sort of mulling over in my mind and get your thoughts on. And the thought was, what if your experience of your child's tantrums was 100% within your control? And I want you to think about that for a sec. That doesn't mean that you're to blame for your child's tantrum. There's no blame involved when a child is having a tantrum. It's just something that happens. And I'll go into lots of reasons for that in another video. But what if your experience of that was within your control? So let's think about that for a minute. Typically, when a child has a tantrum, it can be super stressful for us as parents. And, there's nothing wrong. Like, I get that. It can be very stressful. But what if you could experience it differently? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Some of you may have heard this first story before. That's okay. A few years ago, I was getting ready to fly back home to visit my family. So halfway across the country, I was by myself with two kids. It was the first time I'd flown with both of them all by myself. And my son, who gets overwhelmed super easily, had a major meltdown when we're in line to board the plane. And so there I am with these two kids, one of whom is screaming and crying and kicking. And I can just feel the eyes of everybody on me because they know now that they have to spend a couple of hours on a flight with me and my children. And nobody wants to be on a teeny tiny plane with a child who's kicking and screaming. And so lots of pressure, felt lots of judgment. Um, I was almost in tears myself. It was a horrible experience. Fast forward a couple of years, and one example, we were at the chiropractor. We go quite regularly. My son thought he was having an adjustment that day, but he wasn't. And that was enough to throw him into a meltdown. But my experience of it was very different. All I had to do was hold him, let him have his feelings. And I could speak for him and say, yeah, I know that was really disappointing. You thought you were having your adjustment today and it's not happening today. And that's really hard for you. And I wasn't stressed out at all. I wasn't worried. We were still in a public place. There were still people watching me, but I wasn't worried the way I was a few years ago at the airport. It was a different experience. And the only thing that changed between the airport and the chiropractor's office was me and my thoughts. Because at the end of the day, that's all I have control over. And so, how did I shift that? Number one, I stopped blaming myself and thinking I was a bad parent just because my child was having a tantrum. Number two, I recognized that he wasn't doing it on purpose. Nobody wants to have a big public meltdown. That's hard for him too. So recognizing that he wasn't doing it on purpose was really helpful. Number three, I find it helpful, especially when it's in a public place, even though he's probably not taking all of it in, if I can verbalize what he's feeling and why he's feeling it, it's more to help the people around us understand what's going on and gain an appreciation of why this is so hard for him. And I find that once people understand, the judgment sort of diffuses, or at least my perception of it does. So verbalizing that for everybody else, is helpful to me. Okay. My thoughts are really, at the end of the day, the only thing that has changed from then until now, the way I look at it, the way I feel about it. Okay. So I want you to think about your child and when they're having a tantrum, what thought are you typically having about that tantrum? It's frustrating. Why won't she just do it? All of the things. What could you change it to? Okay, what thought could you have instead that would help you feel more compassion instead of frustration? So, one of them that I go back to all the time is, my child is having a hard time. He's not trying to give me a hard time. I might be having a hard time, but that's not his fault. He's having a hard time. And if I remember that he's having a really hard time, I can pull out the compassion much easier than if I'm, just trying to get him to stop. Okay, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. These are some of the things that I explore with my clients in my 3-month one-on-one coaching program. If you would like more information on that, if you would like to explore what that would look like, either drop me a message below or send me a DM and we'll chat and see what that could look like. Love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts about changing your own thoughts about your child's tantrum and how that might help you going forward. Okay, I hope you have a great day and we'll chat again soon. Bye, everybody.